Welcome back to Thompson to Clark. We're in our off-season mode, so this one's not live streamed either, and it'll be a shorter show because we have one topic and one topic only. The Giants announced that they have signed Tony Vitello to be their brand new manager. Is it a 3-year deal with a 4th year something or other?
Yeah, 3 years, 3.5 million, 4th year option, which is weird. I mean, that number when it came up, I was expecting at least 4. So it's only $500,000 more a year than he was making at Tennessee. So that one kind of threw me a little bit, but again, you're in the majors and you're staying at probably better hotels, right? So you get that better room service.
It is also a better scenario for his career to be in the big league circuit because you can just look at Bob Melvin, who the Giants let go. He was a player and then he was managing for 20 some odd years. And he made this year, he made more money than Vitello will make in any of his seasons. And that's because of just he's a hireable guy. You keep him around. He's always on a job. And so if Vitello, if he sees this as his the top of the mountain for him, it's really good for him to be in the baseball manager ecosystem because people just get hired and fired all the time. Now he probably could have stayed at Tennessee for as long as he wanted. He could have just written down how many years he wanted to stay there, and nothing would have probably happened there unless the team just went to hell. So this is a little bit of a risk in that he's kind of giving away that security for the bright lights in the big city of being the Giants manager. Well, at the same time, if things don't happen correctly, I could see teams really not being interested in him specifically because of how he does things. But this is also, he seems like a bet on myself kind of guy. And I think that's what Buster is buying here, is just that confidence. And so this is like it seems like something that he would do rather than stay at a college for a bunch of years.
Yeah, I think so. And, worst case scenario, after a year, it's a disaster. He's got close to $10 million. He's still under 50 years old, and he can go back to any college team that he wants at that point. I mean, any college team would take him. There would be at least 10 knocking down his door to come to them to fix their programs. So it's kind of, almost a no-lose situation for him if he never really had aspirations to be a manager in the major leagues. Well, suddenly now he is, and all it took is one person to come knocking, and that one person, is a world champion, 3-time world champion, who's running a major league organization in a fantastic city, and with a roster that could potentially win next year. So,
Buster said, or this was in the Giants press release, "We're thrilled to welcome Tony to the Giants family. Tony's one of the brightest, most innovative, and most respected coaches in college baseball today. Throughout our search, Tony's leadership, competitiveness, and commitment to developing players stood out. His ability to build strong, cohesive teams and his passion for the game align perfectly with the values of our organization. We look forward to the energy and direction he will bring, along with the memories to be made as we focus on the future of Giants baseball." So you and I are going to each give a pro and a con, or something we might be worried about with this deal. And we'll use that as the basis of this conversation. You've been reading everything. I've been reading everything. I will say, and maybe I should save this, but maybe I'll just get it out of the way as my biggest worry or my biggest con. I feel like we said all of the same things about Farhan and Gabe Kapler. Like,
Yeah.
if it just feels like that type of conversation. And for one season, that was like some of the funnest baseball we've ever seen. So I'm not saying that that was all bad, because we did have a very memorable season, and we got that like 107 win season. And unfortunately, because of the wild card and how that works, the Giants kind of got screwed out of a possibility of playing longer into the playoffs. And they played the Dodgers. They played each other, a coin flip kind of series, and the Giants fell short. But there does feel like this sort of, and Tim Kawakami, I heard him talking to, I think it was on one of his podcasts. He was saying that one of the things about Kapler and Zadie, that I don't think it was said this way, but it was sort of, this is how people felt about them, was that they just thought that they were the smartest and nobody else was on the same wavelength as them. And so in that way, it's easy for those guys when things don't happen. It's easy to see people enjoy their fall down, right? Their come down when it's not 107 wins every season. Now, from this perspective with Vitello, I don't sense that he believes he's the smartest guy in the room.
Right.
What it seems like is that he believes in the power of personality. He believes in his ability to be ready, ability to compete. And those are all really good things in not only just a manager, but in a player. Like, those are the things you like. If we brought this guy in and he's like our number 4 hitter, I'm like, this is perfect. This is the kind of guy you want to be in the middle of this lineup. But as the manager, I do wonder about some of that. And it goes back to the Kapler thing, because when I can remember a very distinct conversation on this podcast, the Giants are beating the hell out of the Padres, and Mauricio Dubon drag bunts when the Giants are winning by many, many runs. And so we were like on this show going like, are we supposed to be okay with that now? Even though when you and I were playing, like, it was so frowned upon.
Right.
And it was like
nobody else, and don't forget, nobody else was doing it.
Yeah.
This wasn't like we were the 3rd or 4th team to like, oh, okay, we're catching on to some sort of analytic thing that is showing that 8 runs is blah, 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 blah. It's not like it was a first time deal. We saw this from our team and we were like, oh, shoot. What do we do with that?
And the thing about it was, the thing that sort of made it funny was we were just making fun of Matt Williams' reaction, because he just wanted to fight everybody on the Giants side.
Yeah. I think he still does.
Yeah, he might still. I don't think he's forgiven the Giants for that moment, by the way. That might have been why he kept sending runners to the plate. He's like, I'm getting you guys back. But so to like, I just have a lot of the same feelings. Now, I'm not saying that Vitello's style is to like run it up, but some of his style seems to be a little bit like a football player's mentality. Like this, there's videos of this guy diving into the crowd when they won the College World Series, and body surfing and punching people, and so there is some of that which works. I imagine when you're doing that with 20-year-olds, like, they're just jazzed up because that's how they are in their dorms, probably. And so there's a level of that where you're like, okay, I get it from the college perspective, but I just think of like, Rafael Devers, like, thinking about an at bat and Vitello coming over to him, and like Drew Gilbert's like chewing on Devers' sleeve, and Vitello's like trying to pump. And I'm just like, this guy, he's probably just like, just leave me alone. Like, I'm ready to hit. Like, what's going on here? So that is my one worry. And I'll come back with the positive. Don't worry about it. But that is my one worry, which is,
that's your con.
It feels a little Kapler revisited, and I don't like those feelings, because when Kapler was done, we washed our hands with it. We were like, okay, that was an experience, and it wasn't the best experience at the end. So that is my one con, and then I'll come back to the pro.
I see that. I definitely see that. I see where you're coming from. I think now my thought on that con is that the stuff we saw from Kapler, I think, was a little more robotic nose in the book type of stuff like that. You know, you're up 8-0. Analytics says we're only in the, what was it, 6th inning? I don't remember what it was. You know, he knows he does line changes, and he knows that he's not going to have pinch hitters possibly in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings because he's used his bench, and so he wants to tack on a couple more runs. Dubon versus this guy, blah 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 blah. Right? That's what we got from Kapler. We had to dissect the analytics when it came to Gabe Kapler. I think what we're going to see more from Vitello is going to be not so analytic heavy, but I think it's going to be more emotional heavy. I think there's going to be some emotional stuff that we're like, what the heck just happened there? I mean, that I think that's what we're going to see more of, you know.
All right. Do you want to go with a pro, or do you want to start with your con?
Yeah, let me go. Hang on one second. Let me go. I'm trying to pull up my. Where is it? There it is. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm gonna go with my. You want to go pro con?
You choose.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go pro.
Okay.
I'm gonna go pro. You went con. I'm gonna go pro. Buster's. He's got Buster Posey's approval. And that's what I go with, right? If Buster Posey is putting his stamp of approval on a 3-year deal for this guy with no major league experience, I'm good with it. I said earlier, Buster's a winner. And the fact that Vitello gets a call from a winner and the winner wants him to come and manage his team, work closely with him on personnel, on decision making when it comes to, starting pitching, analytics for relief pitching, pinch hitting late in games and whatnot. I think just having that stamp of approval from Buster, it's honestly good enough for me. Now look, he hasn't even been. I meant to look up when Buster got hired. I say that in quotation marks because hired himself.
Hired himself.
Approved by the board, pretty much. And I don't even think it's been 12 months, right? I mean, it has not been 12 months. So the fact that Buster hasn't even had a year in the position, and he's going and getting himself his first manager. This is his first manager. He's saying, look, I am now starting to put my stamp all over this team. I came in, it was Bob Melvin. I upped him for a year. We went south. I decided that wasn't the way to go. I want to start fresh. And then also when you see guys like Willie Adames and Devers and Drew Gilbert, these guys want to have fun playing the game of baseball. They are smiling. They're having a good time. They're joking with each other. They're joking with the other team. If you've got a manager who's loose and can let other guys maybe who wanted to loosen up and were a little bit afraid to, maybe they can loosen up as well. If you're playing loose baseball, I think that's a huge advantage for a team that's kind of on the – they're a fringe team. The Giants are a fringe team, and we say that all the time. They're one of those teams that you've got to do everything right, and you got to walk the line. You've got to make plays. You have to have instinctual base running techniques. You've got to track down balls in the outfield with a little bit of an extra jump and positioning in the outfield. There's all kinds of things the Giants have to do to win ball games because they're not the most talented team out there. That's just not who they are. But if you can do that with a loose style, and Buster Posey overseeing this whole thing says, this is the guy that's going to take us there, and gives you that confidence. I mean, you read Pavlovich's book. So, that little segment there about Buster Posey in 2021 saying, we don't have a team just to win the wild card. We're going to win the division.
Yeah.
and just getting it out there and saying that out in the clubhouse and in the air can give you that motivation. And I think, installing a guy like Vitello, I think can do wonders for confidence and everything. I mean, how many Bob Melvin post game, and I don't want to bash on the guy, but how many Bob Melvin post game conferences did we see where he's like, in the middle of a losing streak? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know. And I come, as a Rams fan, I used to watch Mike Martz,
Yeah.
right? We'd score 45 points in a game, turn over the ball 5 times, and he would just look and go, shoot, we'll fix that. And I mean, that was our running joke as Rams fans, the shoot, we'll fix that. But there was no fix. I mean, we're not scoring 7 runs a game and making 3 errors and winning 7-5. And there's nothing to fix. I mean, there's so many other things to fix, and just getting I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know how to go from here, and I don't know what this is and whatnot. It was disheartening. So I think Vitello's attitude, flip on that. I think him coming in there and giving confidence, I think, is going to be a big deal.
All right, I have one thing I think that backs up your point, and then I'll come with a small counter. So the Giants won a World Series in 2010, and Andrew Baggerly wrote a book called The Band of Misfits.
Yes, great book.
Brian Wilson, Tim Lincecum, Pablo Sandoval, characters, not your, not your boring kind of players. Right. So the Giants can be like Buster was on that team. Like he was probably the most mature guy on the team, even though he's like 22 years old. But he was on that team, so he saw how the chemistry worked there. The Huff that we don't speak about anymore was on that team.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of it. Jonathan Sanchez, like just the weirdness of Jonathan Sanchez. So you can have those personalities and they may make you looser, like you just said. Mm-hmm. The Giants have some guys who could fit that mold of the band of misfits. And so I like that part. That was a fun team. That might have been the most fun team to watch ever.
Are you good if this team wins 86 games and it's fun to watch?
If they're in the mix, yeah, for sure. If they're playing, in a short series for the opportunity to win more, for sure, you're definitely down with it. But but I'm going to go back on one thing that you said. You talked about those guys and playing loose. Their starting left fielder might play the loosest of everyone.
Too loose.
And he might play too loose. And we love him. Elliot Ramos is like, we root for him. We want him to be excellent, right? Like he's come. Yeah. We've the next year will be like his 9th or 10th year in the system, something like that, which is insane to think about. So, but at that point, there is playing loose and playing with chemistry and playing for fun, and then there is like the opposite of fundamental baseball. And there were some times last year where you're just like, what is this dude doing?
What's happening here?
And they probably, when it comes from a talent standpoint, they have less room for error than some of these better teams. And so if Vitello, if his form of baseball, if his brand of baseball actually takes advantage of that, and these guys who do like to have fun, they do get more confident, great. It's not going to work the same for everybody, but in some cases you have guys that you give them a little bit too much rope and they may not do good with it. They may not be great with all that independence. And so he'll have to sort of figure that out. But if I see this dude shotgunning beers with some of the players after the game, I don't know. I'm going to be like, okay, are we going a little bit too far here? But so I definitely see that, how that could be good. And I think you have to sort of manage it in a way as well to make sure that it's not over the top.
And to that point, though, last season, I don't know if you felt the same, but there were times when Ramos would do those things, and I'm like, why is he not immediately benched?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think Vitello will do that because they're, but him and Buster have talked about accountability.
You couldn't bench him though, because your replacement player was hitting like 210 and struck out, 50% of the time. That's
But
the
I think
problem.
it's, I know, but I think it's, and just one game or the rest of said game, say it happens at the fourth inning, the rest of the game he's out. And it's a message to say, look, you got to have your head in the game. And Buster and Vitello have talked about that on numerous occasions separately about accountability for fundamentals. And I think that might have been what frustrated Buster a little bit last year is that Bob Melvin was supposed to also have, be a very well prepared coach. And they were by all accounts. But then you see it on the field translate into something different, and there's no accountability, and then it keeps happening. So I think at that point, I think that's kind of what might have put Buster over the edge to say, look, we need to have a coach in here that is going to hold players accountable from the top down. It can't be from Logan Webb down. It's got to be from the top down. And so I think that is part of why the change happened.
One question before we get to my pro.
Yeah.
Are you worried that this is an overcorrection to an overcorrection? And I'll explain what I'm talking about, which is Gabe Kapler, like you said, heavy analytics. He's a little bit robotic, but his brand of stuff is kind of like new agey in some ways. And, the man would sniff a chocolate cake because he didn't want to eat. Like, just, he's just an interesting dude.
Wasn't his cake a steak?
Yeah.
Wasn't that one year he had a cake that was shaped into a steak?
And so then when Farhan has to kind of let him go with the idea of like, dude, you got to let him go or else we're letting you go. Then he brings in kind of the opposite guy, like the overcorrection of a Gabe Kapler, like Bob Melvin, like the former player who is, just the old stodgy guy, in the dugout. And then now it's almost like, since that wasn't Buster's guy, Melvin wasn't Buster's guy. It's almost like, okay, now we got to overcorrect and we got to go away from the old stodgy guy to like, another new guy. So it's just an interesting pattern. Like, I don't know, like, I guess Logan Webb is maybe the only guy, maybe Logan Webb, Wilmer, who else would have played under Kapler? I'm trying to think of other players. So it'd be interesting to hear their perspective of the wild swings in the personality of their manager.
Tyler Rogers would have been another one. Camilo, right? Camilo was there.
Well, they're not going to play.
I mean, they're not with the team anymore,
yeah.
But I'm just saying, yeah. But I get where you're coming from. But we always forget that Bob Melvin was kind of he was in the ground level of modern analytics, right? Moneyball, on base percentage, all that stuff. So he had some dabbling in it, and he knew about it, and he used it, and it was given to him. So I think he was more like 75-25. It kind of felt like Gabe Kapler was like 95-5 analytics, right? There wasn't I didn't get a whole lot of feel for the game from Kapler. It was more like, these are the numbers. This is what's going to work. If it doesn't work, we keep doing it because odds say it's going to work at some point. And I kind of felt like that's how Kapler went. I think Bob Melvin did a little bit of that, but he also had more of a feel for, okay, it's time to change the closer. Okay, it's time to do this, do that. And I think with Vitello, God, I don't even know. It's so hard to say because we don't know exactly what we're going to get. We didn't watch any Tennessee games, but I have seen him talk about analytics and how they use them in the game. So that is it. It's going to be there, and I think Buster's opening press conference when he was hired himself, he talked about how they wanted to have analytics, but they also wanted to have a feel for the game. And I think you might be getting closer to like possibly a 50-50 with Vitello. And again, this is not, I don't know 100% because, we don't know his game that well. But I think we might be closer to a 50-50 with this type of guy, because again, he's 47, he's young. He's been working with college kids, and college kids need to know analytics. They need to get their swing trajectory up, their, ball rotation,
Spin rate.
everything, spin rate, all of that. They need that, because if they're going to get drafted into the majors, which is what they want to do, as soon as you get there, you've got to know that stuff, because it's going to be given to you to work with to make you better. And that's where a lot of praise came from, that Vitello used a lot of that at Tennessee, and that's why these guys would win with a lot of heart too. So if you can mix the heart with the analytics, you could go far. And so I don't know.
Okay, here's my pro, and I'm going to use for Bay Area people. I actually saw somebody use this already. Tim Kawakami used this direct analogy, and it made me think a little bit. Now, these two people are not exactly the same. Vitello is not a former pro player. He is a college player, and he's coached some pro players. I think last time you had mentioned Max Scherzer and his relationship, and if not, then that is one of his big cheerleaders is Max Scherzer, who's just vouching for him. The 49ers, when they were in probably worse off than the Giants have been these last few years. They were worse than 50-50. They were winning 6 to 8 games, 6, 7, 8 games a year. Mike Singletary was the coach. They had really good players, and they just couldn't figure out how to put it all together. They draft Alex Smith, and he just does not have a feel for the offense. And then they bring in this kind of interesting personality by the name of Jim Harbaugh. And he was doing stuff like chest bumping players and headbutting helmets, and really understood the mental and emotional capacity that each player had and what they needed to do to prepare. He understood how to basically say, yeah, Alex has been here for a while, and he's my guy. Like, I don't care about it. We're not going to bring anybody else in. He's the starter from day one. And that really enabled Alex to not have to be a worrywart, which he had pretty much been for his first several seasons with the Niners. So he comes in like, chest puffed out a little bit. First time in his life, guy believes in him. And it's not only just a guy, it's also a guy who played in the league. And so I've seen it at that level, what a force of personality can do to players who, I mean, let's face it, Willie Adames, Matt Chapman, those are your bangers. Rafael Devers, all three of those guys, if you looked at their offensive seasons, you would say that was probably average of what we would have expected. If they were a little bit better than they were, do the Giants win a couple more games? And maybe that's all it would have taken for them to make the playoffs. Is like, Matt Chapman, he just had to be a little bit better. Your best players have to be a little bit better. And that's what you saw with Harbaugh, is he brought in this sense of confidence, but also knowing that they had the players. Like, he knew the roster was strong.
Right.
So maybe you can look at it from that perspective and say, well, this roster is actually better than people think. And it's really about how to get these guys in better situations and believing in themselves and this confidence and whatever it is. Now, I do think there's a little bit of a different environment for that in football than baseball. Like 1 3-hour football game where people are doing smelling salts and stuff just to get their minds right. And like, that's a little different than this long 162 game season where it's just a grind. It's just a grind day in and day out. But I do think if he's the right guy, that is what would be the equivalent of someone like a Jim Harbaugh who comes in. Now, the thing about Jim Harbaugh is he cannot stay in one place for
Yeah.
long, because that personality does eventually grind on you to some point, and maybe even worse to the people who are your bosses, who maybe you don't treat as your bosses necessarily. So that is what I like about this hire is, can this version of a human being work in baseball where the Bob Melvins of the world exist for a reason? And that's not a shot at Bob. Bob has been
Right.
successful in different
Absolutely.
places. He just did not have what it took for this team. So if you can do it, why not do it with the Giants, who are just, they're boring to most people, and that's what was different about those championship teams, is they were not boring. Like, they were actually kind of crazy, and they had strong personalities, and they had, Mad Bum Snot Rockets, and, and Brandon Belt, putting the C on his jersey. And they had stuff like that where you're like, okay, like, they're kind of fun and they're kind of goofy. And then when you win, you're like, oh, like, maybe our teams need to be a little bit more fun and goofy. So without seeing him, I understand the idea, and I do think that if he works, I think I understand it more now than I did when we first heard the news that this was a possibility.
Yeah. And here's something to think about too. That I woke up this morning and started thinking more about this, because I knew we were doing the show today, and I was like, you know what? Maybe, and we all know that Buster has his ways of doing things, but he could be a genius here, thinking that we had Bob Melvin, who played in the 80s and has been around, major league teams ever since. You've had Bruce Bochy, who's played in the 70s, who's been around major league teams ever since. What if we grabbed a very successful college coach? It's 2025, all right? These guys from the 70s and 80s. It's 2025, if you see what I'm getting at. There's no ageism. I'm just saying, what if we grab the most successful college coach right now, plug him in as manager, because he's had the experience to see what's coming. What's coming through the minor league system? What type of players? What type of game? What type of attitude is coming through the majors and the minor league system in the next couple of years, and will be in the majors in 2 to 3 years? So that's kind of how I'm looking at this.
Mm-hmm.
I think Buster wants to get a little ahead of the game
Mm-hmm.
and say, I've got a guy who can talk about our minor league system as well, who could talk about development. What do we need at the minor league system? So he could also lend a hand there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then when these guys are all up and the game is different in 2028, he's been installed for a couple of years and he's ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. If he has the pulse of the young player, that would be definitely a positive.
Yeah.
And then it's really about your staff, because, if we're being fair, a lot of the players are coming from international.
Right.
And so you do need the pulse for that as well. So it'd be, those on his staff to really help him get through to those players too. So yeah. All right. So last one, you have your slight negative or con, and then we'll get out of here.
I got my con, and it's a tough one because the media is the media. I don't think there's going to be a lot of leeway given. You know what I mean? And it's already started. We've already, and not just, I'm not talking Bay Area media, but Bay Area media is going to be a little bit lighter than the rest of baseball media across the country, sports media across the country. They're going to take their digs and their shots. If the Giants start out 1-5, it's going to be a failed experiment in Major League Baseball media across the country already. There's not going to be much leeway. Now, again, we're the fans. San Francisco media is going to give it a little bit. The first year, there's going to be a honeymoon phase. It's probably going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 months, maybe even All-Star break, kind of see how things are going. But I think right off the bat, I think the biggest con is going to be he's going to be hammered in the media if things aren't going well within the first 2 to 3 weeks of his major league stint. And that could be fair if things are looking goofy on the field and
Yeah.
things are looking like it shouldn't happen. But again, I think he's going to dial it back. You got 162 games. He's going to dial it back. I've seen him in interviews. I've seen him on stage giving talks, and even during those, he's not. I mean, he's not running around and throwing stuff in the air and spitting fire or anything. He's just he's talking. He's engaging. That's the thing. He's very engaging. Drew Gilbert said he's persuasive. You want to run through a brick wall after you talk to him. You buy into what he's got to sell. I did see another quote. He said he really, and this is from Vitello himself, that he has a quote from Joe Madden that he has used all his career. And it's, if you don't fight me on the big things, I won't fight you on the little things.
Mm-hmm.
So that could play well with this team as well, because if you're talking big things, big philosophy, and he says, don't fight me on the big philosophy, buy in with that big philosophy and let's run with it.
Mm-hmm.
I won't fight you on the small stuff. If there's some small stuff that you do that's different, that's this and that is working for you, let's go with it. So I think it's going to be adaptable. But yeah, I think the media is going to hammer him if things don't go well.
You know what? You know where I think the biggest critic is going to be is in the current baseball operations world of all the nerds and the smart guys, and because this is against the grain, right? They want one of their own to be, not one of their own necessarily, because those are baseball ops people, but the people who they think are the next big thinkers. They want those guys to get the opportunities. And I'm not sure Vitello is in that list of, here are the really smart guys who can, who can change baseball. He comes out of left field a little bit. So I do wonder how that area of baseball is going to react to this, because you've already sort of seen stuff. You've seen some folks who are like, yep, if you want to take a risk, he's the guy to do it. And then you've seen other stuff where they're like, who's this weird dude? Like, how's he going to play? But if you want to bring in somebody with an interesting personality, it's going to play better in San Francisco than it's going to play in the Midwest. Then it's going to play in the South, in Texas. So to that extent, it'll play better here than it'll play in New York. So there's an opportunity. I guess it would play pretty well on a team with really low expectations. And that might be the easiest place for someone like him to actually show his worth, is like, he's going into Colorado and taking over that whole thing, but so,
I don't think he would have done it. I think if Colorado would have called him and offered him the job, I don't think he would have done it.
Oh, he would have had to be like one of the highest paid managers in baseball.
I even then, why? I don't know why you would leave a cushy job like Tennessee to go to Colorado that has a track record of just taking a dump all over the field.
Yeah.
And with their finances and everything else. In your first major league job, I think that's why this is a very, very good fit. I don't even think, like, if Pittsburgh called him, I don't, if the Giants called, and again, they have the roster and they've got what it takes. So I think that's where this is one of the only situations. I mean, there was rumor that Atlanta was in on that, and then I think that was debunked, and they said no, Atlanta never called him. And because at first there, I had read that and I go, oh shoot, now we're fighting for Atlanta. He's in Tennessee right now. It's closer to home. Here we go again. But no, ended up being nothing.
So I think the Giants are going to announce him a week from today. Yeah. So we'll see if we can get back and do another short show around that time frame when they do the announcement. I may actually, if I can watch some of that stuff, I may have a blog post up on bspmmedia.com about it too. I just like the introduction notes as far as like, oh yeah, we're bringing this guy in. I like writing it out, and then it'll help when we have the conversation. So I may put something up. So, all right. That is it for our short show here, under 40 minutes. There you go. Off-season Thompson to Clark is just going to kind of be like this. If there's juicy stuff to talk about, we'll try and go live on our normal day. But
free agency is going to get a little nicer once free agency hits. That'll be fun.
By the way, the Montreal Expos documentary is on Netflix.
Oh, did that come out already?
It is.
Okay.
I'm halfway through it. It's not the most interesting thing yet.
Yeah,
But I'm only halfway through it. But I'm at the point where they're talking about the 94 strike. And I guess I just didn't realize how the strike just really killed that baseball team. And so it's kind of interesting to revisit that because the strike was essentially the same problems that are going to exist after next year, which is the cheaper teams don't feel that they can compete with the richer teams, and there needs to be salary caps and all that stuff. So same old. Now, 30 years later,
there's salary caps in football, but not everybody hits the cap. And then you have teams that are non-competitive. So again, I don't think salary cap's going to solve everything unless you force everybody to spend that money. It would come within 5% of the cap. But again, there's still going to be teams that say, yeah, we have a cap, but we
can you imagine the Oakland A's? They're like, no, we're good.
Yeah, they're like, no, we're fine. Yeah, no, and I mean, I guess if you're winning, I mean, they won some ball games last year. They weren't the worst team in baseball. So
yeah. They're just like, oh, like we like playing in Sacramento in minor league parks.
Yeah.
Like, we're good. Like we don't need to do anything else.
This is fun. Everybody loves it.
Saves us money. Rent is cheap.
Right.
All right. So we'll be back at some point, probably next week, though no promises. Brian and I recorded last night talking the new season of the NBA and the Warriors. And then Rod and I will be back Sunday after Niners and Texans. So we'll more than likely going to be live streaming that game on YouTube and then the audio going up soon thereafter. All right. For Brad, I'm Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.